Yeah, as far as I know, they're still going ahead.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah, it seems a bit redundant, doesn't it?
It does a bit, especially if we're going to be coming out of lockdown and people are going back to work.
Yeah, that's right. Good, guys, good morning to everybody. We're going to have an awesome time this morning. For you guys that came in a little bit after the first 50% of the people, I asked the question, what do you expect from today? And I'm always intrigued because when I put that little invitation out there, I'm never quite sure how people are taking it and absorbing it. So who's got a clear expectation of what we're going to be doing this morning?
Looking at tools.
Tools. Ah, more tools.
Yeah.
We all need more tools, eh?
I think it's putting them all together.
Good. Excellent. Good. So I'm going to, let me put it in the chat message here. I created a, let me open my chat. I created a little handout. You don't necessarily need it, but if you want it, it is available. Just letting in the last people here. Good. So in the chat message, there's a little handout, and I've got this new little pencil cam gadget. So that little handout is this little thing you're seeing over here, and there's a couple pages on it. You can print it out, or else, if you've got a piece of paper there, just use the piece of paper that you've got available. We want to try and make this as interactive as we possibly can. And the reason why we want to make this interactive is otherwise I'm going to be here just bloody yapping, talking, and you guys are going to be falling asleep. So for us to make use of the time, get your head thinking, get your hand working. If you remember from Marnie Bosman and neuroplasticity, any movement that actually happens makes the neurons actually work. That's what we want to do here. And just to sort of to try and put this all together, I've got fairly strong feedback from a few of you guys about overwhelm. And one of the things the challenges that I've got is when I'm coaching you guys is there's an expectation I'm going to be showing you new things. And if I show you the same old thing all the time, it is like, oh, I already know that, I've already seen that, you know, I need something new. But if I introduce too many new things, and you have this sense of overwhelm. So this morning's session, the emphasis is like, let's try and bring some of those tools together and make sure that we're actually physically using them in a practical sense. And the reason why this is so important, let me get this other screen up and running. Let me just share my screen. Good. So this morning we're going to be focusing this area over here, the track side of the model, and in particular the marketing. And again, this is an area that a lot of you, if we look at those questions that we asked, I can't remember this 1 or 2 sessions ago, about where's the area that you'd like to most work in your business. It's this a track side of the business. So we're going to be spending a little bit more time in this little quadrant of the next few sessions. And the point of what we're wanting to talk about today is trying to hone and get better at how how are we communicating? And this could be in the area of how are we directly communicating with the customers, or if we're having to put, for example, a webinar together like Greg is doing, Steve should be doing, and maybe some of you other guys will be doing webinars or something like that going forward. Maybe it's how you're going to be doing a sales presentation, a tender or something like that. Also, you would use this information, for example, if you're going to be onboarding somebody into the company from a training point of view. And there's two options out there. The one option is what often happens, and this is like the bottom area. Then I really struggle to get the right photographs. But how often do you go buy something that's a flat pack? I mean, I've just installed a whole kitchen, and it was a flat pack. And as much as I assure you that's really easy to put together, you end up pulling your hair out, and you end up with spare sets of screws, etc., because the instructions of how to put it together are a lot more complex than what it is. Whereas really what we do want is, when we're communicating with people, we want the message to land very clearly so they actually get it, and they have a very clear path forward, and there's no unsureness, uncertainty about what are the next steps we're needing to do. And to bring this home, I remember back, I was probably in my late 20s, and this is when I was selling fertilizer and nutritional products into crops. And one of my jobs was obviously to grow this division. So we went around our province, and we organized these little mini farmer meetings, and we would get about 20, 30, and a good day, maybe 40 farmers together. And then I'll bring in some guest speakers as well. And then I'll be one of the speakers, and maybe there'll be, one or two other guest speakers. And we would talk about plant nutrition and managing stress and foliar feeds, and what do we do about the roots and all this type of stuff. And the presentations were actually really powerful, and we were presenting information from research that most people didn't know about, and so it was very enlightening. And after the end of the period, it was like, there's no doubt you've got a problem, you need to fix it, and here, this is how you're going to fix it. So we were pretty chuffed with it. But every now and again, we used to have these meetings at about midday, about 12 o'clock. And I remember the one time we went to this place called Mpongeni, which anybody from South Africa knows where Mpongeni is. And we were talking to sugar farmers, and we had it. And I could see immediately that as we started the day, the guys were just really interested in the Vos rolls, which is the Boerewors that we have in rolls, and the beer that we're going to have at the end of the session. And sure as nuts, it was a hot day, it was in summer, and some of the people started falling asleep during the presentation. It's like, shit, what do you do? So you make a bit of a joke, and you try and wake them up. But then when the penny really landed is at the end of the session, we're having our beer and our Vos rolls, and one of the guys came up to me and he says, Sean, it looks like you put a lot of effort into that presentation. Well done. Thank you for coming down and all this type of stuff. But he says, I just don't see why I should use your product and start foliar feeding my crops when all the stress that you're explaining, I just never see it in my crops. And I thought, whoa. And it took me a while for that penny to actually get to the bottom of the well. But the penny that eventually landed was, even though they couldn't physically see the stress in their crops, the fact is that the yield was being affected, that they could get another 20 or 30% higher crop yield because of the stress, but they couldn't physically see the stress in the plants. What we had missed on the whole presentation was going too much into the details and the scientific reasons why you should be using this, and not enough time on the why. In other words, why is this important, and landing that and spending all our time in the why area so that the people really saw the opportunity that they had for improving their crops. And when we're doing our sales presentation, when we're onboarding new staff and that type of stuff, we all tend to do this. We all tend to have the same problem, that we tend to jump into presenting the fixing the solution. And sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't land. And sometimes even when it lands, the people say, oh yeah, I get it, thank you very much. And they go off and they just do their normal life. And they don't actually implement what they're doing. And again, the reason is because we don't spend enough time of talking about why we're needing to solve this and what's the impact of them and why they should be taking note of it. and them reverberating it. Is what I'm saying at the moment landing with you guys at all? Have any of you seen this or experienced it or done this yourself? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So for today, because we want to try and make this a practical session, I'll put this this is in the handout as well. We want to go through a little example in every one of your businesses. I want you to pick an example. So I put some options there of an area that you could tackle. Just tick one of them. Which is the one that's going to apply most to you, and we're going to take that example and we're going to flesh it out this morning. Once you've ticked something, let's just go around the room. Everybody can have a chance to talk, and I want to know who's doing what. So nobody can hide under a rock or in a corner here.
Sean, I've got to rework all my webinars, as you know.
Yep.
They're too long and they're probably a little bit too detailed, and spend more time on the why and not the detail.
Yep. Good. So Greg, webinar. Good.
Sean, I turned up late this morning. I don't think I got the handout that you sent through. Was it a PDF or something?
Yeah, in the chat, if you look at the chat, you can download the PDF.
Yeah, I think it's not there because I think you probably sent it before I joined, so I can't see it.
Okay, let me resend it.
I've no excuses this morning. It wasn't my birthday.
I was telling the people as well this morning, I actually struggled to get up this morning. I could have happily slept in another hour.
Cool.
Good. Who's doing what? Come, guys.
With me, I think, as we've discussed, I wanted it to do a done with you offering. So yeah, doing a course would be best for me, I think.
Doing a course, okay. Good. So for you, it's about developing that course. Good, that's fine. Who's next?
Creating a course of programs for it.
Yep.
I'm going to re-inspire my team.
Good. Who else?
Mine's to creating the seminars, so on the course of program, so running bi-monthly or quarterly seminars for clients.
Excellent.
For me, it's onboarding a staff member.
Ah, good. Onboarding. Yeah, who's next?
I'm gonna prepare a sales presentation.
Good. Who would that likely to be to?
To electricians. Well, it's not a specific one, it's just a generic one for electricians for EV chargers.
Good. Good. Okay. So for you, Jacob, this would be really good, especially if you have to do a presentation to a larger organization, as opposed to a casual standing by the youth 5-minute one. Yeah, good. Who hasn't gone yet?
Yeah, inspire my team.
Good. Lindley, inspire, yeah.
A pitch to an investor.
Good. Pitch.
I want to be a webinar.
Okay. How do you see yourself doing that, Doug?
Just as you know, the front end of the funnel, first catching, we're all trawling the internet for good quality information.
Yep.
What I mentioned, some of our stockists did some really good ones I could put my whole crew through.
Yeah.
But kind of a resource that somebody developing, particularly a high-end rural property, might get the attention of their partner or something. Say, hey, you've got to watch this. Probably with some teasers or something for really solving their problems, answering the questions.
Yep.
Most of our clientele are moving out of the city, buying large rural properties. They don't really know what is what.
Excellent. Okay. Who's next? Nobody can hide.
I'm doing a webinar.
Steve, webinar. Good. Matt?
Pitch
You
to
are-
investors.
Oh, you've gone already, haven't you? I didn't write you down, that's why. Is anybody not gone? Brendan?
Sorry, I was on mute because I was printing out my paper and it was very noisy. So I'll be onboarding a new staff member and developing our website.
Good. Staff member on board. Excellent.
Amongst many other things.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that is everybody. Good. Let's share my screen again. Good. So we've now that. So this process, and I've taken some of you through this process as well. I picked this up from a guy by the name of Takimura, and I know Takimura picked this up from a school teacher. And if I remember correctly, he said the school teacher was doing this in like the 1970s or 1980s. So it's like nothing new, but it really is quite powerful. And in your worksheet page 2, there's a picture of that thing there. So it's blank just so that you got something to fiddle with your fingers and you can start filling them in. And this thing is called format, F-O-R-M-A-T. And how it operates is if you write in the top right-hand block Y, so we always start the process of really digging into the why. So of all these examples that you've given me that we're going to work on, we want to first identify what it is that we're actually doing from a why point of view. In other words, the people need to understand, I need to take attention of this. I'm going to focus on this because of this, because it's direct impact on myself, the why. So in my example I gave to you when I was speaking to the farmers, we didn't spend enough time in the why block. The second one is the what. So second bottom right-hand corner is the what. The third one is the how. In other words, how do we physically do it? And the top one is called the now. Okay. So
The what? Sorry?
Now.
Now.
Now. So you should have why, what, how, now in each of those blocks. Pretty simple. So some of you, like for example, Matt, I went through some of this with you the other day. And who else? I think Stephanie, didn't I do a little bit with you as well? I've done a little bit of Steve.
No, not with me.
Not with you. Okay. Good. So by and large, when you're doing some type of a presentation, we're probably going to be spending 60 to 70%, even up to 3/4 of the time in the right-hand side. And even of that right-hand side, the majority of the time is going to be spent in the top block over there. This is quite contrary to how you would normally like to do it, your natural way of doing it. Most of us would probably be spending 60 to 70% of our time in the how, like where the little cat is. The relevance of this is, and I try to do a Google search on this, and I got some varied results, but the completion rate on online courses runs at about 5%. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons for that, but how many people, I don't know if anybody of you have actually signed up to some type of an online program or course. The statistical figures, it varied from 0.7 to 15%, but on average, I was getting figures about 5% back. The reason why not only are a lot of those things like monologue, but one of the main reasons is because when you're doing an online course, they tend to spend all the time over here, and they don't spend enough time up in these sectors over here, really jumping into the why. Now, this is the first tool. This is the only tool, new tool that I'm presenting to you. And we're going to come back and we're going to weave back into this. The next thing we want to do is we want to tackle into some of the tools that you know already. So you can either log into your Sakuma account, or you can just do it on a piece of paper or the printout. This exercise, you know, the FFWA, fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. So what I want you to do now, and we'll just take a few minutes out. And when I talk about few minutes, we're talking about 2 or 3 minutes. Do this under speed. For the project that you're looking at the moment, from the person's mind, from their own perspective, what do you see as their fears, frustrations, and wants and aspirations? If we can maybe put, say, 3 or so of those elements in each of those blocks. If you're not that familiar with this process, the easiest way to start thinking about that is if you look at fears and frustrations, those are all negative aspects. Aspirations and wants, in other words, the bottom half, they're all positive relationships. On the left-hand side, when we talk about fears and aspirations, that's all imagined, and the frustrations and the wants on the right-hand side are all imagined. So there's a quadrant system going on here. So I'm going to be silent for 2 or 3 minutes. Start filling that in. Does anybody have any questions about this? I'm not sure how to use it. I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, sorry, Sean, you've lost me. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing here.
Good.
Me too.
Good. Okay, so Brendan, you were talking about staff onboarding.
Yeah.
And who was me too?
Me, Lindley.
Lindley. Good. Lindley, inspire the team, and Andrew, you put up your hand as well, onboarding a team member. So if we're looking at onboarding a team member, think about yourself now being employed by your company. As they come to join your company, you've employed them already, and now you're going to do your onboarding process. Think from their mind, what would their fears, frustrations, aspirations, wants be for them joining you? For example, one of their fears may be, I'm not good enough. Now I've got this job. I'm so lucky. I've been trying to get work for the last, I don't know, 20 years. I never got work, and now I've got to work. You know, maybe I overpitched myself, and I'm just not good enough. One of their frustrations may be they've actually been working for you for a couple of days, and they've really got some frustrations, like they don't actually know what to do, or they're not getting enough feedback, or whatever it happens to be. Some of the aspirations may be that they actually want to grow and learn a whole lot more. So that will be a typical example of an onboarding process. Who else? Who had another one? Staff onboarding. Lindley, you had inspire the team. Yeah. So again, from inspiring the team, look at your whole team. So it's very similar to onboarding somebody. Look at your team at the moment, take yourself out of being the boss there, and put yourself as if you were one of your team members. What would some of the fears be that they would have in the back of their mind of continuing to work for you? In this environment, for the salon, for Lindley, for the business, what are some of the frustrations that they have?
So, Sean, is this coming from the other person's perspective then, and not from you as the business owner?
No, from the other person's perspective.
Okay.
You want to put yourself in the shoes of that person. If, for example, you're going to have a webinar, so in Greg's situation, you're going to have a webinar on your feeding your plants. Before they actually buy from you, what are the fears that they would have about actually buying your product? For example, it's never going to work, as an example. What is that? What are the frustrations that they've had in the past? In other words, they've actually bought product before and they found it didn't do anything, or they bought some product and it killed the plants. So what are some real life examples? So remember, left-hand side is imagined, right-hand side is real. Real means that they've probably experienced it before. The ones
from
yep.
From my perspective, I've never done an online, created a a course or program online. So I have no idea what fears or frustrations they might have. So I Googled it. Is that a valid strategy?
You can, but you would know this, because if I said to you, look, Colin, I've got a course I'm going to run next week. It's $5,000, and I want you to join up. And I'll give you a little sales spiel. And I managed to convince you to entertain the thought. Before you part with your $5,000, you're going to think, shit, this is a lot of money. I've got some concerns about that. What are those concerns? Some of your concerns are like, I'm just thinking, your fears would be, maybe I'm just not going to have enough time to actually do this. Some of your fears would be, this is not exactly for me, I'm different. Some of the frustrations would be like, I've already done 3 courses, I only finished 1 of them. Some of the frustrations maybe, I did this course, but it wasn't really for me. What is that? When you look at the bottom, the aspirations are much more than actually finishing the course. The aspirations would be, really, one of the reasons why I want to do this course is because I want to get a promotion in my business. I want to run the business. The immediate want would be like, I'm needing to upskill myself. Like next week, I have to do this thing. I have to upskill myself. I really want this course to give me this result now. So aspirations are obviously more long-term. Wants are more like immediate.
This is good, Sean.
Sean, what's the biggest difference between the aspirations and the wants?
The aspirations are more long-term, whereas the wants are more immediate. So in your situation, pitching to investors, if an investor had to buy into or buy your business immediately, what would some of the aspirations be for that? For the aspirations, maybe, for example, in the next 3 years, next 5 years, we can see this dominating, and it's going to be bigger than the New Zealand Herald stuff and Google put together. It's going to be like a massive thing, and everybody's going to be talking about this, or they're going to be exposed to it, for example. The immediate want would be, when we do this, we want Sarah to be involved in the business, working 40 hours a week for the next 3 months to make sure that we onboard people or whatever. So short-term, long-term. And you guys are the best to fill in these, not me. Who's got something they can share with us? We're not going to share everybody's, but who feels they've got something to share for the benefit of everybody?
I have.
Good, let's go for it.
Okay, starting at the right-hand top, there's too much information and they can't work out how to use products. And there's too many products and they don't know which products to use for their plants. Moving down to the right-hand bottom, they want their plants to grow well, and they want easy instructions or information to make that happen. Moving across to the left bottom quadrant. So the product needs to, aspiration is a no-hassle process of using products or growing plants, and satisfaction that they are doing the right thing for their plants. In top right hand, fears that their plants will die. Some of these plants they pay $3,000-4,000 for, unbelievably, and fears that their plants aren't growing well, that they're not doing the right thing to make their plants grow well.
Good. Excellent. So here's one way of cheating this now. And I wanted you guys to put something, hopefully everybody's got something down there ready. I find it easier to do the negative things first, the fears and the frustrations, because usually those are right at the surface. Once you put a couple things down there, fears, frustrations, look at the opposite of that. And invariably that becomes the aspirations and the wants.
I actually found the fears and frustrations harder.
Okay. We've always got an oddball here.
Obviously. Obviously.
Good. So let's go through yours, Matt. What have you got there?
Okay. So I did start with fears and frustrations, but I found them quite hard.
Yep.
I'm pitching to investors at the weekend.
Yep.
So I'm actually working on a presentation right now.
Good.
But frustrations, maybe they're frustrated because they have an unrealized opportunity. Maybe they spot a really good idea and they're frustrated because it's not coming to fruition quick enough.
Okay, so let's start. If you found it easier to do aspirations and wants first,
yeah,
let's go to that.
Okay.
And then let's try to do the opposite of that, which becomes the fears and frustrations.
Okay, so the wants, they want to give back. So they want to find new talent and they want to find investment opportunities.
Good. And what's the opposite of that, which becomes a frustration?
They'd want the opposite of giving back is taking away.
Yeah. The opposite in this situation would be that they're looking for opportunities to give back, but the frustration is they've sat through 10 presentations and they just don't find this opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So they find new talent and there's no new talent there.
Yep.
There's a lack of people because there's not many people doing the tech thing. Yeah, so that's cool. And so that would be that then. So the aspirations, they want to grow the tech industry in New Zealand.
Yep.
They want to inspire new leaders.
Yep.
And they want to make the world a better place.
Good.
So the fears are that they aren't making the world a better place, they're making it worse.
Good.
They are not inspiring new leaders because maybe there's not enough talent out there.
Yep.
And that starts to make sense now.
Good. Does it help talking through this, Matt?
Yeah, it does.
Good. Who else would like to talk through
it? I can.
Go for it.
So I'm wanting to re-inspire my team.
Yep.
So fears, I've got trust, standing up for themselves, and business stability.
Yep.
Frustrations, it's going to create more work for them.
Yep.
By having to go through the process, feeling like they don't need to.
Yep.
But overwhelming. And just in terms of their general work, they've got negative customers they're dealing with and they get stuck doing the drudge, not actually building sales and stuff that they actually want to do.
Good.
Aspirations.
And do your aspirations and wants look like the opposite of the fears and frustrations?
No, probably not so much. I did struggle with that. But I've been listening since I wrote it down. I've been listening to you rather than writing more.
Yes.
But I wrote down aspirations for a promotion and job satisfaction. But the opposite of fears, so in fears I put trust.
Yep.
But I guess the opposite is also trust. Like they're fearing trust, but to trust, I suppose, or become trust.
Yeah. So the opposite is in their words that they would like to have an environment where there's complete, honest, open trust, and they don't feel they're going to be what's the word? They don't feel like they're going to be belittled
And then, of course, in fears, I had business stability. So I guess the opposite of that is that we are actually having a stable business,
Yes.
making more money.
And why would they want a stable business?
For profit share and job stability.
Yes, and also so when they go have a cup of tea with their friends, they can say, "We work for InSync."
Right. Yeah.
There's a level of pride coming in.
Yeah, pride is good.
Yeah.
Wants, I put more money, harmony, more time, and more focused work to suit them. So different personalities would suit different aspects of the business. So I think they'd like to be more focused on different aspects. So one person's really into sales, another person's more into the admin type of thing. So yeah, so I would say their wants are to become more focused on their natural abilities.
Good, fantastic, well done. Good. So the learning coming out of us going through these examples with you people in live situation, and remember, as we're doing this now, this is not going to be your best rendition of this because we're doing it in this environment. You'll do a better rendition when you spend a little bit of time by yourself actually doing it. But you can see, as I was challenging Stephanie there, whatever we put down there, we can embellish it a little bit more. In other words, if somebody says an aspiration is to be to live a comfortable life, you can go one step further and say, like, why is that important? We need to live a comfortable life because my grandparents were locked up in Auschwitz, and it's really important to me that, I don't get locked up in whatever it happens to be. So embellish it, make it real life, because that really lands in the bottom line reason. That's what really counts. Who is anybody else that's really struggling? Has got maybe a blank piece of paper, or has only got a little, like a noughts and crosses on their paper? Good. Nobody's got noughts and crosses.
I was coming through, but on mute. Yeah, aspirations and wants, I find the challenging component.
Good. Have you managed to do fears and frustrations?
So yeah, I've got something in each quadrant. I guess the fear for business owners, or is my business compliant? And how do I know what training should staff members have for their job, for compliance and to conduct their job safely?
Good. So what have you got as the opposite of those?
And so aspirations, I just took your tip, but I aspire aspirations to have a compliant business.
Because?
So I guess then if I look, and once I added in there, want a profitable business and want staff to be safe.
Good. So on all of those, these positive ones, I want staff to be safe because, I want a profitable business because. Because that gets down to the, like, I want a profitable business. Oh, good. I want to win lotto. Good.
Yeah.
I want to win lotto because I know I can help all the soup kitchens in Auckland, and I can feed 1,000 pounds or something like this. So what's the real reason?
So how do you align that if you're talking to a range of businesses?
If you understand what the average business wants, that's what we're going to be talking about. So, for example, if you talk to the average business, we want a profitable business. And the reason why we want a profitable business is because you worked your blood and sweat and guts out, and you deserve to be rewarded for the risk that you've taken and for the effort you're putting in. Like, which business owner wouldn't resonate with it?
Yeah. So I was noting that down.
Sometimes as a business owner, it's nice to be an employee, like just hand your resignation and leave all the shit behind sometimes.
Yeah.
But we can't do that. So we need a risk, we need a return on that.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something that I need to challenge or dive into more myself, the why.
Yeah.
Yes, from my point of view, Jason, the big why is I want a simple solution, easy. You've got a service, you're set up to provide the training. I'm not skilled. It's an issue I have. I just want to press play.
Yeah.
Know that it's done and it's easily accessible is probably a want. An aspiration is that they actually really learn something, that they come back not only having invested in the compliance, but they come back actually inspired or much better at their job, because not only are they compliant, but they understand it so much better.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and that probably aligns in my frustrations. I've got a good long list in it.
Yeah.
I see perceived frustrations being staff don't learn anything in training.
Yeah,
only doing it for compliance. It takes time away from being on the tools, which is making money for the business. And go to courses, learn something, but then can't apply it because it, in principle, it's great, but in application, it's not so clear how do I do that? Paperwork, time, equipment.
If you could quantify the ROI on the
yeah,
like that's a big marketing, because I look at the bills go out.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, gee, that one's just something we've got to pay. It's dead money. But when you're actually seeing it, oh, no, he's going to come back.
Yeah.
And I can see that he's slightly more productive, or at least more passionate, then I can see a return on investment there.
Good. And I like the fact that you use the word passionate, Doug. You know, you've said this many times as well, Jason, that a lot of people do the safety training because I have to. It's a compliance thing. To be honest, I've got zero passion for health and safety and compliance. It's like I can put sticks in my eyes rather than do this. So I want somebody who is passionate about it to manage it in my business, and that's where you come in.
Yeah. So that would sit as a frustration.
Yeah, that would be a frustration. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
The other thing I just say here, Jason, is like a framework. So it sometimes just seems like with the health and safety stuff that you're just sending someone off for first aid and this or that, but there's some satisfaction or an aspiration really in looking, going, well, I'm working that person through the 5 courses in the next 5 years or 2 years or whatever it is. So this aspiration that is working towards something. And I can turn around and say, all my guys after 2 years have completed the 5 things and they've got a qualification.
Yes, yeah.
Good, guys. Okay, so we're gonna keep on going. We've spent enough time here. For all of you guys that spoke up and volunteered, thank you. You're gonna have a reprieve for the next one. So other people have to talk on the next one. So when we go look at the why, the reason why we've just done the FFWAs is that is where it belongs. So if you now think about how am I going to talk about the why, and I've emphasized why it's so important, you tap into the FFWA exercise. This is where the emotional triggers are. So if you look at your FFWA and you just go circle, let's just say circle 3 of the ones that jump out most to you, wherever they happen to be in the quadrants, in the boxes. Just circle 3 of them and say like, this, and this is really important. Those are the ones that we're going to flesh out in the Y quadrant. Does that all make sense?
Sean, with the ones that you pick, does it have to be one from each, or can it just be from different parts of the FFWA?
Whichever one you feel most comfortable and powerful and effective with. And so here the exercise we're doing over here is a practical exercise to go through the process and the format. You should do this exercise again, and you'll have more time to focus and concentrate without being distracted, all of us. And you'll do this even better than what we're doing at the moment. So at the moment, just circle, let's just say the 3 that are the most relevant to you. The next one we want to jump into is the pink sheets. Now, the pink sheets is something I've taken some of you through. just talk to me, who has not done pink sheets before? Doug? So I can't see everybody on the screen at once. Who else? Doug, who else? Sarah, you haven't done it.
No, I haven't.
Anybody else? Okay, good. So it'll be new for the two of you. Okay. So again, in your handout, there's a one-page here. That's the pink sheet. What the pink sheet is, it's a structure of how to get your thoughts out of your head. This is relevant because you guys are the same as me, and I know that because I'm a human and you're a human. I think all of you are humans. Sometimes you have this moment of genius, and it could be you in the shower, or you're going for a walk, or you're making a cup of coffee, and you think, "Oh, that's the bloody good idea. What you know, I can do this with this whatever thought you've got." And you finish making your coffee, the phone rings, you get up to your office, and you think, "Shit, what was that thought?" And it's just gone like a flash. So sometimes, you know, it's a day later, sometimes it's like 10 minutes later, I think, hell, I had this ingenious thought. What was it? And you can't actually, you know, you just can't nail it. So this is a process that helps you get those thoughts out and put them into logical format. And the way, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because a lot of you have been through it as well. So I want you to take the example that you've got at the moment, and we'll quickly run a pink sheet through it. And let's start with the statements. The statement is also what I often call the point. So this thing that you're wanting to do, onboard staff, inspire the team, create a webinar. In like a short sentence, what is the point of it? So like, what are you trying to achieve? Write that down. For example, onboarding staff, I want to onboard staff so they're immediately productive and happy or something like that. I'm going to run a webinar. What's the point of it? I want to have a transaction of sales immediately afterwards, whatever it happens to be. So doing the point is really easy.
John, there's potentially multiple points though. For example,
yes.
If it's, you know, create a course or program, so why do I want to do that? Well, I might want to do that so that, you know, I can get more business
yes.
at its basic level, or I want to do that because, you know, I need to persuade people to do this. That, you know, that could be the statement, how to persuade people to do this. There's multiple things I could do for this pink
Correct.
sheet.
And when
I don't know what one's.
Yeah, so for now we're going to do one and just take it at a relatively high level of why you're doing this. Why are you doing this webinar or this course? Just take a high level look at it. When we do flesh out a course, we create multiple pink sheets, and I'll tell you in a second where you actually place those. So maybe for your point of view, take it from the perspective of why somebody would, maybe take it from the customer's point of view, why would they come and do your course? Like take it from that perspective for you. With a pink sheet, you can take it from the customer's perspective or your perspective. It doesn't really matter. But for you, Colin, let's just take it from the customer's. If you're going to inspire the team, like what's the whole point of this thing? Once you've done the point, do the explanation. So as I was giving the example, I think was it to Jason, it's like that because, like, we want to run a webinar so we can have some sales. The explanation of that is what? So that's the meaning behind the points, the explanation. Who can I put on the spot? Who would like to go through the statement explanation, the concept, so everybody else can understand and learn from it? Lindy, did your hand go up?
Okay.
Yep, I can go. Yes.
Go for it.
Yep. So my concept statement is to be acknowledged for working hard.
Yep.
So that was in the wants real positive quadrant.
Yep.
And so my explanation is so I feel valued in my job, and that gives me satisfaction.
Good, fantastic, nailed, excellent, good. Who else raised the hand?
Yep.
Go for
it. Statement: a simplified regimen for feeding plants. Explanation: too many products, too many opinions, too much information creates confusion.
Good, excellent.
So I filled in the others. Do you want me to share that?
No, we will go through the rest. Let me run through that first. Okay. Anybody else would like to go through this?
I will.
Go for it.
So the statement would be potable water, creating a win-win-win. So a win for the tenants, the property managers, and the landlords. And the explanation is property managers will understand the importance of potable, safe water in the properties that they manage. They'll keep their tenants safe, create value in the property, and avoid issues of non-compliance with tenancy tribunal.
Excellent. Good. Okay. So thank you, Steve. Hopefully everybody, this is landing for you guys. From here, I always like to do the middle section first. From here, it doesn't really matter where you go. For in this example, we're going to jump down to the bottom. And if we take the content now of what it is, can you think of a story that would relate to illustrating the point that you've just put there? So for example, Steve's, no, who said they've gone further? Greg, eh?
Yeah.
Did you manage to do anything on the bottom?
Yep.
Good. So you want to go through your example and try and illustrate it?
So building on the concept is that the story that we need is a simplified weekly regimen to feed plants. Most people just want something simple and not a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that, and the plant world is really confused on how to do that. So my story is simplifying the process of feeding plants.
Good. Just I need to talk into that. If it's going to be a story,
yeah,
you would like to bring in a real case example of a story around it.
Oh, that's easy to do, but I don't have time to thresh that out tonight.
Yeah, that's good.
This morning. Study, well, that's continuous for me. Heaps of references I can put there for study. And then my model, I've said 1 + 2 = 5. In other words, if you implement the process, you're going to get a good result.
Yeah.
And then just the metaphor is just really simplified. People are just wanting something that's simple and easy to use and not complicated.
Good. Okay. So Greg has gone through this exercise. So if for some of you, if this is new, it may seem like, I don't know where this is all going. It's because Greg has done this a couple of times already. If you look at the pink sheet over here, everything on the right-hand side is different to on the left-hand side. And the reason why it's different is we're talking about the left and right hemispheres of the brain here. So there's some factual things and there's some emotional things. I always get confused which is the left and the right-hand side of my brain, but one side of your brain, I think the right-hand side of the brain is more factual and is more conceptual, and the left-hand side is more factual. So we're trying to cover off both sides of the brain. So when we're talking about a story, it is like You know, once upon a time, in fact, I gave you a story. I gave you a story of when I was dealing with the farmers. Who remembers what the message of the story was?
The why?
Yeah, when I gave the story and I explained the story about the farmers, and the guy came up to me and spoke to me afterwards, and he said, like, I just don't know why I must use your products because my plant's under stress. Who remembers that story?
Yeah.
Good. So and I'm only saying this because stories are very powerful. People remember stories. So, for example, if you like onboarding staff, you can go through a story, and it could be a negative story, or it could be a positive story. You know, it could be in your business, it could be somebody else's business. It could be about a book you've read. It could be about the Netflix culture. It could be something that you're aspiring to. So a story you can embellish, and you want to embellish it because a story lands. Whereas where we've got to study, it's something more factual. Now, when you're filling in a pink sheet, you don't have to fill in each one of these quadrants. But if you can, you would like to, because then you just got access to this nugget of information you put down there.
So Sean, for the context, assuming that the model is sort of the implementation processes, what's the metaphor? So a metaphor is, if I'm correct again, is the right-hand side of the brain. It's that conceptual thing. So if I, for example, say, let's take an example. If I say to you, gee, guys, I'm struggling with an example here. Trying to think of a practical example. Let's bring what is your case is selling to investors, is it? Yeah. Good. So one of the problems that you've got with investors is that they'll be reluctant to spend their money because they're not exactly sure what they're getting. So that will be one of the big fears. Like, they're going to come in with some money, and are they going to get what they want? So a metaphor, and I'm thinking this very quickly here, a metaphor, it's almost like the screensaver on your computer. You have a look at your computer, not that screensavers are that popular anymore, but you've got this amazing picture of what you see. Until you start working on the computer and the screensaver disappears, and then it's like, there's all this complexity and these formulas, and I don't know what to do, and there's all this noise and messaging. So that would be a metaphor. So it explains a bigger picture. A metaphor is important because if somebody understands a metaphor, I think I mentioned to some of you guys this last week, like an iceberg. If I say to you, think of an iceberg, what do you immediately think of when you see an iceberg? What do you think of?
Old.
And what else?
Big.
Yeah, and where's it big?
Underneath.
Yeah. So there's like a little bit up top, and the bulk of it's down below. So that's a really important metaphor. So I could use that metaphor, for example, saying, look, I want you to do my course or my program, but it's a little bit like an iceberg. I can only show you the top, but once you get inside, you'll see the whole iceberg, everything in there. And then people think, okay, so you've given me so much information, it looks pretty good, and I'm only seeing the top of it. Wonder what's down deep inside once I actually start doing your course, doing your seminar, doing your webinar. So a metaphor is something that people would relate to. And you have to get imaginative with it. A model then is, I do models all the time. So here is an example of a model, the format. This is how we go about presenting information. It's the format. So a model, and again, you don't have to have this, but it's useful.
For you, Sarah, in your business with Link U2, you can create a model of what Link U2 is. Like how does it actually work? This is where the people sit. This is where the customers, you can create a simple model around it. And again, I could have a whole session just on creating models. And we're not going to do that now. Who hasn't spoken yet? Jacob, what have you got?
I've done the explanation so far, and that's all I've done. I haven't done the model, the metaphor, or anything else yet.
Good. And your one was sales presentation.
Yep, sales presentation. So the statement, we want to make electricians the first point of contact when consumers are buying an EV charger.
Yep.
So instead of buying an EV charger from the car dealer or online, we want customers to talk to electricians first so they can determine if the household infrastructure is sufficient for the EV charger. There are additional install components. There are no additional install components required that will increase the install cost significantly. The charger has the correct documentation for install in New Zealand, and for company vehicles charged at home meets the requirements for WorkSafe, and for outdoor installs that their charger is suitable for the conditions.
Good. So that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information. So if we're here for you to start embellishing a story in the study, again, because you're only new into selling EV chargers, you may not have this personal experience, but you can go find it.
Yeah.
But you need to go search for it. So, and a story in a study may be a little bit similar for you. So some of it would be, you know, you've done the research and you find that 50% of the EV chargers are sold through the second-hand car dealers. And the problem with that is that they are really good at selling second-hand cars, but they're not so good at specifying what the people need with EV chargers. The story could be around this, that, you know, it's not uncommon for somebody to go buy an EV charger. They spend this money, they get the car. The cars only stick around for 6 months or 2 years or whatever it happens to be, and then they change the car, and suddenly the EV charger no longer works for the car because the EV charger wasn't the correct model. It didn't have the flexibility, didn't, you know, whatever it happens to be. So you can embellish it. But as soon as, if you can find some value in that, as soon as you start giving that story, people will remember that, what I've just told them, rather than an explanation you've given, which is all the features.
Yeah.
Because that's all the technical stuff. But people remember the story. People remember, oh shit, okay, when I buy an EV charger, I must get one that's going to last for 10 years, and it doesn't matter which car it suits because it needs to be adaptable for different cars or something like that.
Cool.
Let's move on, guys. So the pink sheets fall into this section, the what. So when we go back to the format and we say what it is, this is where it fits in. So what we're going through now is when we said this is, you know, 60, 70, even 75% of a presentation, we're all in this section. And this is why it's so important to nail the FFWAs and the pink sheets. Now, going back to what Colin said, his question I said I'd answer earlier. When you've done your FFWAs, and I said circle the 3 most relevant ones, sometimes it's useful then to take a pink sheet for every one of those that you've circled. Especially if it's going to be something like a webinar. If you've got doing a webinar, a seminar, something like that, and you've got somebody's attention for, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you can take each one of those circles that you've got in the FFWAs and flesh it out with a pink sheet. The reason why you want to do this is to really land it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. When you're onboarding something like staff, you know, when you're onboarding a staff, again, you should be spending a 20-minute meeting with them, a 30-minute meeting with them. If you've gone through this process, you've tapped into what's really important to them. And it's either because you know this applies to all staff that it's onboarding, or it's personal to them. Once you then start going into the pink sheet, you are landing the plane in terms of the FFWAs, that emotional things that are triggering in their head, you're landing the plane with the pink sheets with it. This process that I'm explaining here is quite critical of understanding this. Is anybody a little bit unsure, confused?
I'm really enjoying seeing how they all tie up together.
Good. Does anybody not see how they're all tying together? Good. Everybody.
Sorry, I might have missed a bit of it, but the what relative to your pink sheets and the FFWAs, where do you draw that from? Is it drawn from sort of, yeah, is there a specific area that that's drawn from, or that's just taken from the process?
So this over here,
yeah.
And how do we develop the why? We do the FFWA exercise to develop the why.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
How do we develop the what? We do pink sheets to develop the what.
Cool. Yeah.
But you will end up with a few whats because you've done a few key points in the FFWAs.
Yeah.
As a result of, we do a few pink sheets here.
Cool. Okay. No, that's cool.
Good. Was there another question? Not. Good. Now the how. This is easy for you guys to do, because this is what we all tend to do. We're all experts in whatever we do, and we say, okay, this is how you're going to do it. So even from an onboarding of staff point of view, what we tend to do is say, okay, we're going to onboard you. Okay, sit down with them. Okay, this is what you need to do. You need to pitch up at 8 o'clock and then make a cup of tea, sit down at 8:05, and you need to do this and this and this and this. And it's all the how. It's easy to rattle that off. And if you're lucky, the employee's sitting there and they're taking notes and thinking, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this. Whereas what we really want to do is we want to spend the majority of the time over here, because then we get the emotional buy-in. If we talk about inspiring our staff and our team, spend most of the time here. But guys, you know, you fully understand this. You're like, this is like we talk about another analogy here, or metaphor. By the time we get to this point, it's like the second before the gun goes off, the horses bolt out of the starting ring in a horse race. So we want them to be up and ready to suck up the information of what we're going to give them about how. So if we go back to the situation, for example, with Greg, who's talking about plant nutrition and feeding plants, you can go through maybe 3 things about how you actually do it. This is the physical process. In terms of inspiring our team, guys, this is the plan. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to focus on these 3 things. We're going to do these 3 things this week, or we're going to do these 3 things for the rest of our life. We're going to do these 3 things for the next quarter, whatever happens to be. But the how, we try and limit what are the things we actually physically going to do. So everything is preparation until we get to this point. So in your sheet now, write down, and I'll suggest about 3 things. Whatever you got there, what is that thing you're going to write down? The how, what is it? And I haven't got the time with me. Who can tell me the time at the moment?
8:11.
8:11. Okay, good. So on your handout, there's 3 blocks here: number 1, number 2, number 3. That's the 3 things. The how. What are those 3 things you're going to do?
You say the 3 things you're going to do. Sorry, I might have missed something, Sean. Is that 3 things that you want them to do, or I'm going to do in developing this?
No. So in your situation, what are the for you it'll be like, what are the 3 things we actually wanting to teach them on now?
Easy. Yeah.
For you. So we've put the horses in the starting whatever they call that thing.
Yep.
Starting line, and now we're going to teach them how to do it.
Okay.
Good. No more than 3 things.
It's amazing, actually, just to sidetrack, Sean. Lots of things revolve around 3 things.
Yes.
It seems to be like a universal magic number. You often I get when I'm sitting, just 3 things I have to do, or these 3 factors, or these 3 whatever. It's something about the number 3.
Yeah, yeah. Anything more than 3 starts becoming overwhelming. Good. Let's get some examples from some of you other people here.
Yeah, I can give if you want, or do you want to give someone else a chance?
I want somebody else to volunteer. Andrew, you've been very quiet.
Just a little bit. I'm kind of struggling with this one a little bit.
Yep.
It's all very new to me. So for this how sort of thing, I'm confused. Is this the actual steps of things we're going to teach them, or?
So for you, it was onboarding, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Good. So what are the 3 critical things that they needing to do in their business, in your business, when they're working for you? What are the 3 critical things you want to teach them how they should be doing this, how they should be doing their work? In your situation, if you're onboarding, obviously there may be more than 3 things, so it's slightly different.
Yep.
Yeah, but the emphasis here is that, let's just say you take a magic number and you're going to onboard them for an hour. You're going to spend a whole time onboarding them. You want to be by the stage that you tell them, like, you have to do this, 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 and this. They are salivating that they're so excited to embrace this and get going with it. They're like, just tell me, please tell me, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. That's where we want to get to.
Would this be like showing them how the business model works and how we do it differently to other agencies and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
You'd rather, like in your situation, onboarding situation, rather than all the necessary the technical things are like click here and change the font color here. That's too fun. It's the higher level. Like, in terms of our model, these are the things that we're going to put in place that makes us different, stand up, and and win the game. We do this, this, and this, and this is how we do it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good.
So Sean, my thing is re-inspire the team, and one of the things I'm thinking to show the radical candor videos.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about in here?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's how I'm going to inspire them.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, the 3 things would be like, we're all going to independently watch radical candor, and we're going to go through the worksheets. The next thing is we are going to meet for cheese and biscuits on Friday evening, and we're gonna practice it.
Right.
And the 3rd thing is we're going to meet weekly, and we're going to give feedback on each other of how we each rated, and there's going to be a prize for who did the best job.
Right.
So it's not taking what we had in our pink sheets and then doing the how.
Again, you could.
Yeah.
For you, it was onboarding as well, Lily?
Yes, but to be acknowledged for working hard. So
okay.
My ones, so I had ideas of how to acknowledge staff and
Good.
create ways to make it a habit, and now start doing it.
Good. So for you, we're talking about acknowledging staff, is it?
Yep.
So it's from you to them or from everybody?
From me to them.
Good.
And it can be the others as well, inspiring, you know, acknowledging each other's work, but just coming up with ways that rather than just a you did well today, making a little bit more detail, even like a little card or something like that to slip into their handbag or whatever, just to acknowledge them.
Yeah, so I would be having the emphasis here of how do we build up a fantastic team dynamics such that we all acknowledging each other in a genuine, authentic way for the work we're doing. And our suggestion is that we follow this 3-step process. Number 1, we do this. Number 2, we do this. Number 3, we do this. And they will suck that up because you spent nearly 3/4 of the time explaining why, how, relating to it, all this type of stuff, which includes your FFWAs and your pink sheets. But you just have to think in it. Yours is a little bit similar to Stephanie's. The regular calendar is not a bad option to look at. You know, so how number 1 is whenever we give feedback, we're never gonna tell somebody you did a great job. What are we going to say? You did a great job because you did this. You know, that's rule number 1. What's rule number 2? Rule number 3. So we're going to reward the behaviors that led to the right outcome. And we're all going to do this. What have you got, Steve? Unmute yourself. There we go.
Yeah, it's a precision operation there.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a webinar. So I got to the how bit and realized that and part of my presentation, I actually haven't the what and the why and the what hasn't actually we haven't talked about solutions at all at that point, and we haven't actually highlighted the legislation side of things. So with the how, for me, it's number 1, I put understanding the legal legislation, like there's teeth behind what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so the number 1 is understanding the legislation, the definition, and then actually just the different parts of law that it references to really quickly.
Yep.
And then touching on what changes are going to happen after the 1st of November. And then number 2 is, so what's the measure for, like, what's the legislation actually going to measure, like the real world test that they actually have to comply to, like what's, you know, if it all goes wrong, how do we know? And so explaining that side of things. So in our world, it's an E. coli test. But the E. coli test means 10 things. It doesn't mean it's just an E. coli test. Okay, and then touching on, okay, so how are you going to make sure that the water's going to meet or pass this test? And then number 3 is, you know, getting them to understand that, okay, well, you can do the whole house, or how much of the house do you actually need to do when you're talking about a property. So I haven't talked about any products or anything like that yet, just trying to walk through the process of getting from the legislation to, okay, so how, you know, what is the actual real world test for that? And then, okay, so how do you pass the test?
Good. I think we could be a lot more, and it's probably a reflection of what you're saying now, is because of the right-hand side we haven't fleshed out enough and deep enough. The how, what we wanted to do now is telling them and showing them a very clear path of how to get out of this muddle that we're in at the moment.
Well, isn't that the now?
No, that we will get to in a second. So the how would be, how we're going to get out of this muddle is, first of all, we're needing to understand the state of play. In other words, we need to understand how vulnerable the individual properties are in terms of their water situation. And because we don't need to fix something that doesn't need fixing. So first of all, we have to understand individual properties. How at risk are they? Then if you think of another how, it would be, we are needing to do, you know, a water analysis from the various water sources, if there's various water sources on the property, do a physical thing. And then the third how is, we then need to work out a plan of what do we need to install to fix that problem. So there's like three steps here. Find out who's vulnerable, measure how physically bad they are, and then come up with a solution by scoping it. We need to scope it. But it needs to be very succinct. So when you get to the how of what you're doing, Matthew will be the same here. It needs to be very simple. Like they can physically grasp it, they can take it, they don't have to spend energy trying to digest it. They'll say, thank you, you've told me exactly the need for this, all this type of stuff, all the emotional commitment, all of, and I understand, there's just these three things to do, and I get it. I don't have to spend energy trying to decipher what you're saying. Good. The last one is the now. And this is the easiest, simplest one, is what are the steps you're needing to do now? So in Greg's situation is you would show them how they physically go about buying it. We've got this amazing offer. It normally sells for $20. We've got a $10 special now. If you're interested, send me a message. If you're interested, follow this link. Just like what you're needing to do now. In your situation, Steve, it would be what you're needing to do now. You need to book in a session with us. Here's our Calendly link. So we can spend 15 minutes with you, 45 minutes with you to understand how we can help you in your business. Like, what's the step you're needing to do now? For Sarah, you won't be quite at the level of, from an investor point of view, to action this point, because you have to develop everything else. But if you were ready, you would say the next step could be something like I've just suggested to Steve, that we book a time so you can come and visit the business and we can spend some time through it. Or it could be something else, but certainly you're not quite at that level yet to nail this last point. If you're onboarding staff, you've told them the three things that they're going to focus on, what they're needing to do now. What I want you to do now is I want you to go for a walk and ruminate on everything that we've spoken about. And then here's $10, go buy yourself a cup of coffee, sit in the coffee shop and write down on a piece of paper what are the insights from the onboarding process to make sure that we are all understanding each other where we need to go, as an example. So what is the step they're needing to take now? For Doug, what have you got there?
So mine was, where are we here? To provide, so it's a webinar.
Yep.
So my statement is, this is where I'm struggling a bit. I think too often we try to get too excited about what we can offer, rather than initially being a source of good information. And after people go, gee, you were good with your information. Now what can you sell me? So I was to provide a key info to clients regarding developing rural property. And the explanation is we're going to educate and build reputation with the clients, as well as communicating value. So my what, that comes back to asking the question why they are developing this property, asking them about their lifestyle, and how they will be using the property. So obviously where you invest your money, if you've got equine interests, you're going to invest money differently in the property. If it's just about the view or the space or privacy, etc., all these things are going to be first they need to establish that they're why, effectively why they're doing this with the property. Then they need to set three, just pick number 3 there, but 3 main goals around that. So we want to make sure the property is easy to maintain, we have area to use our horses, and we have a great view, for example, maybe those things. And then I'll come in with the number 2 in that how, so that's broken down from our point of things, the 4 main points, which is access, driveways, etc., usable space, views, wind and sun, services and drainage. And those are effectively all relate to products of ours that we sell. And then the what to action next would be, so what I don't want is put a webinar out there and get 150 people from Pukekohe, or somebody who doesn't really have the budget to develop a property significantly going, hey, come out to my site and have a look, and I'll be inundated. So I've realized I need to create a small worksheet effectively. And people who aren't our target clients are going to just steal that and take it and use it, and that's fine. And that solves the problem of me having to deal with them. But then others will go, great, this is really good. This has helped us. Actually, we're in your demographic, we're in your area. The next step after they've done their 4-step process of identifying their goals, where they want to invest in infrastructure, what that infrastructure should do for them, will be contact us for a site visit. And then I've just said that we will also offer them good communication and problem solving, but also a guarantee as part of that now. So I guess offering up that, what we can do.
Good. And one of the ways you can protect yourself about getting the right audience, when you get to the what to do now, you can say, if you are this person, in other words, if you have a multi-stage property, or if you have, a property that's 1 hectare and you're subdividing, this is what you're needing to do now. Here's a link, follow this, and then we will contact you or book a session with us, but you can give that qualification there and then. You probably would have done it in the first stage as well, because you keep on referencing back to it. So somebody who's on board that wants to grow a nice vegetable garden, at some point they'll realize, oh, this is not for vegetable gardens. This is for, multi-dwelling development stage. Yeah. Good. Who else would like to go through what they've got, or is anybody completely confused?
Sean, this is an area I've always struggled with.
Yep.
What's next after the webinar?
Yeah.
How do you incentivize them? And just based on this and what you've said, the only one I can think of is, hey, put a pack together of the 3 or 4 products you need, and for webinar attendees, they can get X% discount, and send them a discount code that if they buy, they can excise the discount.
If it's necessary, you can, but always resort to discount last.
Yeah, I really struggle with this, Sean, but what I've experienced too is that after educating the people, you normally do get a few sales.
Yep.
A lot of the sales come much later, not straight after the events, because so yeah, I really don't know what the next steps are, other than taking them onto another webinar with more information at a later stage. I don't know.
Yeah, I would just, I'm throwing it out there. If you're going to talk, let's just say you're going to talk about one of your foliar feeds as a webinar, and you're going to go through all the aspects of why the foliar feed's really, really good. when you come to pitching that irresistible offer at the end of it, you could say, look, we sell this product, you know, this product normally retails for $26.99 on the shelf. We offering it to you today at less 10%, which is $25. It doesn't have to be amazing, and that price is probably the price that you would normally sell in any case. But in recognition for the fact that you sat through this whole webinar, what we're also going to do is we're going to throw in some rooting hormone for you, or whatever, something else.
Yeah.
Because the reason why you would want to do that is because it'll be less expensive on you than giving away a discount, which is just the cream of the top.
Yeah.
And then that also leads them to the next webinar, which is specifically about this rooting hormone, which they may like to learn about that. And also they may end up ordering more rooting hormone because you're not giving enough of it away for free.
Sure. I mean, the easiest thing, cheapest thing for me to do is give away 2 liters of the potting mix.
Yep.
Yeah, it's less than
Yep.
it's less than $5.
Yeah, exactly.
And that will lead to more sales because the stuff works really well.
That's right. What else have we got here, guys?
I guess my next step is really just to discuss with the team what the basics of radical candor is, and then ask them to watch the videos to start the process.
Yeah. Good.
Sean, this let's say I gave away 2-liter potting mix to every order. Is that something you'd advertise up front when you're promoting the webinar, or just keep it?
No, not at all. That's always your encouragement to say, watch through to the end. I've got an amazing offer for you.
Yeah.
And again, if you've got the ability for them to enter a promo code when they're ordering, that's when you give that little promo code out. So they enter potting mix as a promo code and they get 2 liters of potting mix.
The easy webinar, which is what I use, it tracks time, retention time on the webinar.
Yeah.
So 80% retention time is recognized as attending the webinar. And then once I've rolled up all the data, you can send an email to all those who did 80% view of the webinar in the promo code.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Good. Okay. Good, guys. So what we've gone through this morning session is actually not easy stuff. It's actually quite difficult stuff to grasp and to master. But we've made a start on it now. Before you walk away and you get bogged down with all your other demands in work and your life and your day, I strongly encourage you to have a look at what you've done and rework through it. Go make yourself a coffee and rework through it. Make it better without me distracting you and everybody else distracting you. You've got the framework here, but now make it your own. Still at a high level, just on a piece of paper, just do it. Give yourself half an hour and you should have done it. Are there any takeaways or insights that you guys want to share?
Sure. I just want to say this is a great tool for me. I mean, you've done an excellent job at putting this all together in a way that we can understand and flow with it. And today I tasked myself to do a product video. So this is going to be great for me on that video. Really, I'm going to be using this a lot. It's a good tool. Yeah. Good.
I would like to participate in some of your webinars, seeing the new format then.
Yeah, I got to wait for my product to arrive from America first. I'm sold out.
Good. Okay. Who's got some other insights? Who's learned something today? Who's taken something that they can implement?
I can see the value in following through. So all of these things you've shown us have all been like, yeah, this is amazing, this is awesome. But to actually see how they fit together is actually really,
useful.
Yeah, very useful.
Good.
Yeah, I'm with Stephanie on that one. Being able to take the process right from the start all the way through to the now is very good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I think I chose the wrong one.
Yeah, that's okay.
At the beginning, because the now is like, it's not working for me. So
good. Have you got something better to choose?
Possibly. I'll just have to go through that exercise again with the pink sheets and
For you, I would suggest it's something to do with the team. You know, inspiring the team, getting everybody focused on us working as a team to achieve what we're wanting to achieve, which is creating that wow experience with customers. Because we're only going to achieve that if we're all 100% on board and motivated. So it's something in that area that I'll be tackling. Good. Matt, you have to do a presentation tomorrow. Where are you sitting on this line at the moment?
Yeah, so it was really useful for me to come together. I need to redo it because I got the pink sheet statement wrong.
Okay.
And like Lindsay said, once that bit was wrong, nothing else followed on.
Yeah.
And it was too hard to go back and do it with everything going on. So I need to go back and think about it properly. But yeah, I mean, I want to win this. I'm presenting for $3,500. So it's worth it for me to put the effort in. So I will go and apply this stuff today.
Good.
I've got the power of a presentation ready.
Excellent.
That I'm working on. So I kind of know the content, and that's the thing that I struggle with more than anything is content. And this is a good way to be able to put that content into a logical order and make it effective. So yes, I will use it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. Okay, guys, we're going to sign off. So I don't have a clock in front of me, so I don't know what the time is, but I think we've gone over 8:30. If any of you want one-on-one help with this, call me, and then we can lock in a session in either over the phone or via Zoom, and I'll help you individually with this rather than in the group. So contact me.
Yeah.
Doug, we need to book in a session as well.
Thanks, Sean.
Good. Okay.
Sean.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.